we're 3 wins away from, this becoming the second part of the cat show here at the Philadelphia Convention Center.
That's right. We have a genuine cat show next door. If you haven't seen the pics of that, that's what's next door to us here. But I've got to say, I love the Channel Fireball guys, and it's always exciting to see what they come up with. But I think this time, and this is going to sound a little ironic, but I promise I don't mean it that way. In some ways, I think they've surpassed themselves this time, because when you invent Bant, Boss Naya, you know you're on a winner because it's new, and look,
Sure.
no one's going to have this, or very few people will have this bit of technology. And when you come along to Amsterdam with every copy of Dora and the Explorer in Western Europe, and then you dominate, because you're playing a different game functionally to a lot of other people. Spoke with your friend Jacob Van Lunen about how he felt coming in to Pro Tour San Diego in 2007, and he said, yes, I arrived feeling I was going to win the Pro Tour because I was playing different Magic. But when you bring Zoo, you feel like you're playing the same Magic as everyone else.
You know what? Boss Naya is a zoo deck of sorts. Right? The idea, it's the general philosophy that I'm gonna play early creatures. I'm gonna put a lot of pressure on you for your deck. Your deck can kill me on turn 3. Well, you better, right? You had better kill me on turn 3 because I've got a clock, and the clock is ticking. And every tick of the clock, I draw another card, and maybe that's another way for me to interact with your deck and stop you from doing what you want to do. And you know what? I also brought a sideboard. With cards just for you.
Yeah, and when you talk about that, we will look at the sideboard specifically, but it doesn't look like a Zoo sideboard.
No.
This is a thing that has 6 dedicated counterspells. Straight up, not conditional counterspells or things that aren't there, that they happen to counter things, but they're draw cards. They are just like, no flash freeze, no flash freeze, no flash freeze, no unified will, 3 copies of that.
Don't forget that Bant Charm is also a counter spell of sorts.
And that's in main. You've got 3 in the main deck there already, and this, so
which is what led down the path of the counter spell plan.
Sure, you're suddenly at 9 counter spells, even Mind Sensor to say you're not searching below the top 4,
and again, which also serves as a form of counter spell. Because you're like, well, you know what? I'm going to transmute this land and go get it. Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to play this, Summoner's Pact. Hold on.
Yep.
I'm going to do something in response.
In essence, the sort of book on Modern early is there's no control deck. There is. It's in the final. It's called Zoo.
Yeah. It's Merfolk. It's Zoo. You know what I mean? There's always that type of deck, and these guys found it. And kudos to them, because it would have been really easy to just tell Brian Kibler, like, hey, be quiet. We're not playing Wild Nacatl in a format full of, dark monsters from the prehistory of time. People are casting turn 3 Emrakul the Aeon's Torn.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about, as you say, kudos to them, because in a sense they didn't believe their own hype. They didn't think we have to reinvent the wheel.
Sure.
They went, hey, we've tried everything. If we can't make all these fragile things stable, maybe no one else is making them stable either. And Sam, fair play to him, I mean, he has a fantastic... That blue deck, sure, it misbehaved at the very, very, very end of his tournament, but that was a phenomenal deck.
The deck felt a little bit like the old Dark Depths deck to me.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? It was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna search through my library. I'm gonna find these specific cards, and then I'm just gonna set something up, and then I have 1 or 2 answers to whatever it is you're doing. And I'm doing it so early, you can't have more than 1 or 2 answers to what I'm doing, right? Because it's turn 2.
Yep.
So even if you have a handful of spells, you can maybe cast 1 of them, maybe cast 2 of them.
So Josh Utter-Leyton is into the final. Sam Black, for all his heroics and terrific deck and great deck team, is not. But someone else is, and it takes 2 to tango, and this time it will be the Italian Samuele Estratti who joins us in the final for a transatlantic matchup, and Samuele Estratti is running Splinter Twin. So, having defeated a combo deck in the semis with Sam, it's a different kind of combo facing Josh in the final.
Samuel was very apprehensive about this matchup when I talked to him a few minutes ago.
Okay.
Congratulating him. I actually asked him. I said, so, I just don't want to, I don't know. I haven't met him before. I was like, listen, it looks like you're in a little bit of pain sometimes while you're playing in the in the semifinal.
Chair's
He's
not
like,
comfortable?
he's like, I am suffering. You know, he knows what's at stake with every turn of the card, with every tap of the land, every decision, and he really is just like, oh boy, I better do this correctly. And he's really, but he said that this is a bad matchup. He can certainly go to his sideboard and find some things that will help him, but he feels like he's looking at a second place finish. He feels like he's looking at a second place finish this weekend. I mean, as I said, it's not like he's going to roll over.
Oh, sure. Well, you don't get here, do you? And then just go, oh, never mind, you have it. But it's been a great weekend for the Italians in general. Manuel Giusti did very nicely. Thank you again. Well into day 2. 2 players in the top 8. I don't believe that has ever happened before in the history of the Pro Tour. 2 Italians in the top 8.
Oh, I believe we had 3 in Kobe.
Really?
I believe so. It was 2 or 3. Yeah.
Okay. Oh. I have to think about that one. All right.
I remember Ilya Rotelli being very, very excited at the time.
Yes. Okay. That's fair enough. Of the sporting club fame, indeed.
Yes.
Okay. So. 2 Italians in the top 8. They're doing very well, thank you. We saw Mario Pascoli, the last finalist, 2008 against John Finkel, who has done very well this weekend. But presumably you feel this is Josh's final to lose, broadly speaking.
I think Josh is going to win.
Because he doesn't do throwing things away.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I think that this is a very favorable matchup for him, and I think he's going to continue to pad his excellent modern record on this weekend. He was 8-1-1 coming in. He's now 10-1-1 on the weekend in modern.
Sure. Pretty extraordinary. What did you make of M12 draft this weekend? It's kind of got lost in the shuffle because there's so much, an avalanche of new information about modern. And yet those 6 rounds really shifted things around.
Absolutely. I actually think it is the best core set draft format that I've had an experience to play. I mean, I liked, drafting with Ice Age. I guess maybe that counts. I'm not really sure.
I'll give you that, yeah.
But like this is, as far as a base set, I don't think that they've gotten drafting as on point as it is here. You can do a lot of different things. There were some really interesting dynamics that went on a number of the tables. I mean, I thought you did an amazing piece with Sebastian Thaler, where Sebastian talked about, he's like, well, if I'm going to get a Gideon's Lawkeeper, I'm just going to assume that you're going to pass me some less exciting white cards that are very good as well. Right? He's like, if you're going to pass me the best white common, then I'll take the second and third best white commons when you pass them to me.
Yeah, at 7 and 8.
Right, and so there was a lot of, I think a lot of people had a lot of assumptions about the format when they sat down at draft tables. Right? I think they were like, I am not going to be green.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to ask you about, because that was the wisdom coming in. Don't draft green, at which point you are instantly into the world of everyone says I mustn't draft green, therefore I can draft green. And we watched a couple of drafts in detail, of course.
If you watch the first draft viewer that we did, I mean, there's clearly I'm not going to draft green, I'm not going to draft green, this guy's going to draft green, that guy's going to draft green, I'm going to draft green, oh, by the way, he's going to draft green. Yeah. Because everyone's like, oh, well, people are going to pass green, and they're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have passed that green, maybe I'll be green. Maybe it'll come around the table. It was very interesting to see how the prevailing wisdom sort of rippled through the format.
There was a terrific article by Steve Sadin on, I think he called it Fancy Play Syndrome.
Sure, that was something Chris Pakula said to me on Twitter.
Okay.
This actually comes from a draft I did on M12 draft I did on Midgo, where I got past a third pick Day of Judgment.
That's right.
And people are like, well, because Day of Judgment's not very good in Limited. Really?
That's funny. I thought it killed all the creatures.
Really?
Really? I thought it killed everything. That seems quite good.
It still works the same way. It's not called Wrath of God anymore. It's called Day of Judgment. It's slightly less powerful. Creatures can regenerate. They don't often.
Yeah, indeed. And the case where I bring up Steve Sadin with his Fancy Play Syndrome was the card is Overrun, which features quite a lot in drafts because it's not rare, it's not mythic, it's just uncommon. And you are constantly confronted with, I'm not green, I open Overrun. And it's like, oh. Well, the thing is, you can be pretty poor at Magic and win a lot of games by getting to 5.
Have you read Overrun? Because obviously a lot of people have not.
No, well, but this is it. Because I thought it was like +3/+3 to that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. that just yours, not your opponent's.
Sure.
And then you turn them sideways, and even if they had blockers, they all had trample.
Yeah.
Which seems quite a good deal for 5. And I thought it was good, like 10 years ago. When
It was.
when bad people were winning with it then, and good people. And now it seems like you're not allowed to play it if you're good. I don't understand that.
Speaking of playing, it looks like our finalists are ready to go. They've shuffled, they've mulliganed, and we're ready to get to the finals.
Okay, so what will it be? Will it be A, trophy, check, history? Or will it be B, better luck next time? We know the decks, we know the players, but we don't exactly know how the cards are going to fall. That's the beauty of our great game. So let's see it all unfold live. It's time for the Pro Tour Philadelphia Championship match.
Up Periscope.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Wherever you are in the world, you are extremely welcome to the final of Pro Tour Philadelphia 2011 with me, your host, Pro Tour statistician Rich Hagan, and my co-commentator, Pro Tour historian Mr. Brian David Marshall. It is the modern format. We're here at the birth of a brand new, very, very exciting format, and you are going to see Samuele Estratti of Italy there. And he is basically the underdog in this matchup against the home hope from the United States of America. There you see him, Josh Utter-Leyton, whose heart rate has come down just a little from his semi-final win over Sam Black. Brian David Marshall, there's the table getting ready to go. Away we go.
We've got Splinter Twin on your left in the hands of Samuele Estratti, and we have Josh Utter-Leyton playing Counter Cat. And he leads off with a stomping ground and, no wild Nicolo.
Estratti.
I'm going to guess preordain. Do you think it'll be preordain or ponder?
Let me think about that for a minute. Well, he has a grip full of blue. Looks like he has the choice there.
Decides to go a little deeper than a preordain.
Yeah, preordain looks at 2, ponder looks at 3.
He sees another ponder, a pestromite, and a land.
Misty Rainforest. There's Josh, sitting in the
He
same
shuffles
chair.
them. He's like, I've already got all these cards in my hand. Let's get something in a red, maybe.
Yes, unlike Sam Black, who sat in that chair in the semi-final, this is a blue deck that actually wants to see its red cards as opposed to combo cards.
Sure.
So Estratti draws something else.
Looks like a Cascade Bluffs.
Rimandare. Remand. Sure, the Italians are wincing at my pronunciation, but can't be helped.
I'm only half Italian and I'm wincing at your pronunciation.
Indeed. Think how they must feel. Tarmogoyf we see in Josh Utter-Leyton's hand. There's an Elspeth Knight Errant there. Land and fetch.
1917.
Yep, he takes the full 3 there.
Hallowed Fountain to go with his stomping ground. The Ravnica block jewels.
Play a 2/3 Tarmogoyf here.
That is the play.
Land and sorcery.
Josh has Green Sun Zenith, bunch of land in hand right now. So Estratti will probably play that Cascade Bluffs that he drew off the top last turn, and he'll just pass there.
Sitting back on his remand.
Remember, he's looking to assemble the combination of either Deceiver Exarch and Splinter Twin, or Pestamite and Splinter Twin.
Right. And a Gaddock Teague
we've got-
from Josh would put him on having that have to be the Kiki Jiki.
The Mirror Breaker.
which he only has 2 of in his main deck.
So,
Knight of the Reliquary.
Yep.
It's, yeah, why don't we try that again next turn?
yeah.
I'll put an instant in my yard and I'll take 3.
System 16 for Estratti, who draws.
There were 8 players when we started. It's down to 2. See the loneliness of the Sunday stage there.
Yeah.
Lonely's in quotes in case you... There's a lot of judges, cameramen.
I tell you what, though, it does feel different to any other kind of Magic you can possibly play. You can't train for this. You know, you can't put yourself in the mental state to do this. I mean,
there's no game of Magic where you're going to have as many eyeballs on you
no.
as you have in this situation. Yeah, the entire world is watching you play Magic.
Yeah.
Green Sun Zenith 4-2. Is that okay?
Yep.
We go get a Gaddock Tigre.
There it is.
Like, okay, now you gotta find a Kiki Jiki or an answer to my Gaddock Tigre.
There is the face of the last US representative in the tournament, trying to keep the Pro Tour trophy on home soil. Quite a long way from home still, several thousand miles from home for Josh.
Tap Tarmogoyf with a Pestermite.
And on you go, Samuel.
We'll begin the deck filtering portion of the competition.
What's great about this, though, is that although there is an awful lot of deck filtering, unlike Sensi's Divining Top, which involved a lot of shuffling, here your opponents are never irritated by your Preordain, your Peer Through Depths, your Ponder, because they are relatively brisk to resolve. You know, you do get through them, and it is a pretty smooth format in that regard.
I mean, Sensei Divining Top is, you'd use it multiple times in a turn.
Yeah.
Sort of like casting multiple Preordains in a turn.
I haven't heard anyone this weekend go, no, Preordain. So the graveyard filling up for Estratti with his filter spells. Plays land number 4 with his Pestamite down. Crack from Josh, end of turn. Misty Rainforest will become another very pretty land.
Sorry, that was the last of my coffee.
Okay. What a relief.
So, one of the amazing things about being at the Philadelphia Convention Center, you know, the New York area tournament organizer, which used to be me, and my old partner, we used to run their PTQs in this convention center because across the street is the Reading Terminal Market, which is unbelievable. It's got the second best pastrami sandwich in the world, the greatest roast pork sandwich in the world, and apparently some amazing iced coffee.
Apparently, some of which you may have sort of vicariously slurped. Yeah.
At least I didn't make bubbles like at the last Pro Tour.
Will you hush? They're listening. Tarmogoyf comes in.
13, 16.
Stratty's still looking for answers for Teague. That land from Josh may well turn into a draw a card at some point pretty soon. Knight of the Reliquary comes down as well.
12, 16.
So the pressure is mounting. Just as you said, BDM, here's the clock. You can see it right there. Tarmogoyf, Teague, Knight of the Reliquary. Just a little 1 toughness Pestamite on the other side with plenty of burn spells in Josh's deck.
It's like, okay, you remand it. I still have guys on the board. They're still coming. Here's another one.
Which turns out to be quite as powerful anyway, right now. Stratty draws. advantage Italy 7 cards to 2. But that isn't what we're measuring the game in right now.
And Estratti's very close to winning this game.
Preordain sees Fire Spout. Which he decides to keep and then draw. And then what?
He can't kill the Tarmogoyf.
That's the thing. I mean, but presumably he feels he has to cast it now, right?
He can spend 2 cards, he can Fire Spout, and then bolt the Tarmogoyf to finish it off.
So there's the Fire Spout.
Done.
Land.
Nope, that's fine.
16.
Crack. Yep.
There you go.
Well, not crack, yep. So the board is clear.
10.
At the expense of quite a lot of chicanery from the Italian.
Went from 7 cards to 2 to 4 cards to 2.
Yep.
But it went from, multiple permanents on one side to 1 permanent on the other side.
Yep.
He knows there's a fairly reasonably sized Knight of the Reliquary in his immediate future.
So there you get a lesson in Italian cards, apart from the steam vents on the front.
Yeah, that was fun during the Antonino De Rosa deck tech.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I did a deck tech with the Venezuelan guy.
There we go, it's a ponder.
Mhm.
Is this going to go a little better for him than the ponders went for?
Being left on top. Absolutely. The land. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It was a red card.
Twin. My Pestamite. Josh looks. We know he's... Yeah, he had nothing more. And that is 1-0 to Samuele Estratti. Nothing doing in Josh's hand. This time, unlike Sam in the semis, Estratti had what he needed. So we said it was an expensive way to go about killing everything with Ponder, and I'll find a Fire Spout, and then a Fire Spout, and then a Lightning Bolt, the last bit of the
Right.
Tarmogoyf, and then...
Getting rid of the Tarmogoyf was just a bonus. I mean,
Sure.
really what he needed to deal with was the Gaddock Tickler.
Absolutely.
He had enough card filter in his hand that he was able to, he was going to find something.
So the players will get to the business of sideboarding for games 2, 3, and then possibly 4 or 5. Let's take a look at the top 10 Europeans who finished here. Well, Max Shogun, terrific, 12-0 as he kicked off. You see the 2 Italians together there, Estratti and Portaro. Now, I'm ready to make my bold prediction for the year. You ready? Here
Yep.
we go. This guy, Ferenc Nagy from Hungary, most people don't know much about him. I'm here to tell you that having gone through the teams for Worlds, this year, the team that's going to surprise everyone is Hungary.
Oh, well, not now. Not that you've ruined it for them.
Oh, is...
I mean, it's not much of a surprise anymore.
I was just telling you. I was just telling you privately, just
Oh,
so
okay.
you're not surprised when Hungary do really, really well. They have literally 3 of the 4 best players Hungary has ever had at the game in their team. And, they're actually really rather competent this year. And
Nagy acquitted himself wonderfully this weekend.
Yeah,
he was
terrific.
just at the top tables the whole time.
I really think Hungary get possibly the leading European nation at Worlds. On we go, Vincent Lamar, terrific story.
Now,
with
he is on the national team.
Vincent Lamar.
Yeah.
Vincent Lamar is the Belgian national champion.
So the first time I remember seeing Vincent Lemois was the last time Worlds was in San Francisco
2004.
in 2004 when he was on the Belgian national team that got so close
Yeah, they
to
were,
the team title.
they were like 3rd that year, I
Yeah.
think, if memory serves. Then we go down to Alexander Onosov from the Ukraine, and we'll be keeping up with the Kadaseviches later in the year. Igor from Russia, Vit Vavra, one of the Czech players, Seb Thaler, disappointing.
Disappointing finish. I mean, 21st.
Yeah, not a disappointing finish. Let's be clear.
But he was he was at on the pole position
Yeah.
the whole weekend. He was leading the pack. He
8-0.
He was the pace car.
Absolutely. Until Max Scherblum took him out in round 9, and it was kind of downhill from there for Seb.
Well, that draft he went 0-3. I mean, really, his entire tournament hinges on that second M12 draft.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you have Timothée Simoneau for the top French player, 24th there. So, a reasonably good showing from the Europeans. Can't really complain about that. Some newer names, some people you don't know terribly well.
Some
Perhaps
new names, some new countries.
Absolutely, yeah. And there were a lot of people, like I mentioned, this Venezuelan guy who came and did a deck tech for
Gerald.
us. You had Gerald Kamanian from the Philippines.
From the Philippines, right.
That's right, and that's exactly it. Here we have with people from all over the world playing with different language Magic cards, and it was great. It was a really global field, deep into day 2. So we're heading for the second game here, with Estratti having wiped the board, got rid of Garrett Teague, and now he has the chance to settle into the possible 4 sideboard games.
I mean, sideboard games for Josh seem pretty exciting. I mean, again, he gets to bring in his flash freezes, which are going to be very very good for him. Possibly bring in Unified Will. There's not a ton of creatures on the other side of the board. Kasali Pride Mage, not so much. But Estratti said he's able to bring in his Dismembers, his Spell Skite. He could bring in his Engineered Explosives, and possibly 1 or 2 more Lightning Bolts.
Sure. So I mean, he has cards to bring in. It's not like he's struggling to find something to do. It's just you feel again that the Zoo deck is pretty well set up.
It's a slower combo.
Yeah.
And so it gives Josh a couple chance to play some cards out and just sit behind them and then use his mana disrupting Estratti's play.
So getting ready to go once more. And, we'll find out exactly what the players did ultimately sideboard in.
So we've seen. We know that Chikara Nakajima was the top finishing Japanese Magic player in this tournament.
Let's see if we can get a glimpse of how the top Japanese players did. We'll see if we can get that up for you. There we go. Now we've gone with the top 6. It wasn't that there were only 6 playing, but obviously a United States Pro Tour, there aren't 50 Japanese players playing. So here's your top 6. And, well, I guess the news there is 2, 3, and 4. You have Watanabe, Yasuoka, and Shuhei Nakamura. The big 3, the former players of the year, holding the fort very much. And Nakajima, again, very much an old school player.
Sure.
Ken Yukiro's been around as kind of level 4 for a couple of years. Atsushi Ito is a name I don't know. So Japan very much in a rebuilding process right now. Of course, Shuhei is into the Hall of Fame later this year. We'll be there to cover that at San Francisco.
And honestly, it's a strong finish for Watanabe and Yasuoka.
Oh yeah.
Either of them, both of them, are still very well. No one at the top of the Player of the Year race really ran away with anything this weekend.
Indeed.
So picking up a Midland amount of points with a top 32 finish is actually pretty significant when you're tallying up your year. See Josh Utter-Leyton, who's thrust himself into the Player of the Year race.
Absolutely. Well,
with this finish.
20 minimum points, could be 25. And we know that he's going to be tremendously prepared for Worlds in terms of the team that's around him, because they're all going to have so much at stake, as they always do.
Well, his teammate David Ochoa is on the national team.
That's right.
So it sounds like Josh's sideboard plan involved Kasali Pride Mage, Flash Freeze, Unified Will, and the 1 Tectonic Edge to sort of just keep him off that critical mana total.
And on the other side, there's a pretty lengthy list of bits and pieces from Estratti.
Estratti basically brought in his sideboard except for Ancient Grudge and Blood Moon.
Yeah, so you're going to see the Dismembers, you're going to see, because he's got 2 of those, it's not a 4-of kind of sideboard. 2 Dismember, 2 Spellskite. It's going to play the Engineered Explosives, the Singleton Deprive he's decided to bring in, because,
Sure.
well, you know, I might just decide to live against a Lightning Helix instead of
just,
dying.
you know,
And, you know, and a couple
Increase the number of counter spells in the deck. I mean, he has the spells are quite good for him.
Yep, and
no
a couple of
remands.
Lightning Bolts.
Sort of like the
as well.
5th remand for him. Josh is in the middle of resolving his a mulligan to 6 here. These 2 players really are a study in contrast in terms of table presence, where Josh is just like we've talked about, just is very flat, very still as a player. Estratti is just, I mean, animated. I mean, his face is almost cartoonish when he's playing, right? I mean, he's grimacing and he's sighing and he's you know, clucking his tongue and
He's
tapping his leg and
Living in the moment.
yeah.
So we're away. Misty Rainforest. 17 says Josh. It's a stomping ground.
Which means it's a wild Mikado. Could be a normal hybrid, but
It's a wild Mikado. So Estratti's first turn of game 2 must feel good to have won the opener, because now he feels that you're only one really good draw away and one really bad draw away from your opponent from being a Pro Tour champion. So,
Sure.
you know, from 1-0 up, he must start to have some hope.
remember, Josh was down 2-0
Against Sam.
against Sam in the semifinals. That was a land, no priority, no
16?
ponder from
14.
Estratti.
Sam is the kind of player who will probably run the math on the chances of him not finding what he needed in the top 29 cards of his deck, and I heartily recommend you don't ever do that, Sam.
Well, it was pointed out to me. We said it was half his deck, but it was pointed out to me by someone on Twitter, Julian Boer, that actually there's a shuffle in there
Sure.
from
Okay.
a ponder.
Yeah.
Right. So he did. He may have looked through the same quarter of his deck twice.
We're going to have a philosophical debate about whether that's the same thing. Down comes Tarmogoyf for Josh Utter-Leyton. Sees Lightning Bolt, Bank Charm, Horizon Canopy. There
I know.
you see it.
I know we've talked about a lot of cats in this top 8, but you know, we'd be talking about Schrodinger's cat there, right?
Is it there? Isn't it there? Lightning Bolt the Tarmogoyf before it gets crazy. And away it goes. Estratti draws for turn 2. Has Dismember. It's got a Fire Spout, I believe, sitting in there. Ponder, couple of land. So the Ponder is going to come to the front. As Italian card names go, Ponderare is one of the less showy.
Lends itself well to song.
Don't tempt me. Lightning Bolt Engineered Explosive now on the right of Estratti's hand. He passes with Mountain open. There you see the World Champion Trophy. It will be awarded later in the year at San Francisco. Where we will see Modern again, I believe. Does that sound about right to you? Or who knows? I hope we do.
I do as well. I know certainly that was the original plan for releasing the format into the wild.
Into the wild Macathlon.
Yes.
So there's Gaddock Teague from Josh.
And by the way, when we see it, it will be after the Innistrad pre-releases on September 24th and 25th.
Uh-huh.
So what that means is we will have, several hundred new cards, some of which will have multiple sides, to add into this format. Oh,
Faces.
there we see a Fire Spout.
So Gaddock Teague wasn't needing an answer for long.
No.
And although Estratti is at 12, and that with that pass, again, you've got to feel that, looking at that empty board in the middle there, things are going pretty nicely for the Italian here. He's just going to pass back, though. And Josh is going to say, hey, I've got some land, let's go and find something different. He's drawn a flash freeze off his horizon canopy. Replaces land number 3. When did modern become draw go? Pestamite.
Tap one of your lands.
Flash freeze, bank charm, lightning bolt. Second flash freeze. Yeah, that's why Josh isn't doing anything. It's all reactive. So the Pestamite occurs, and then blow that up. Estratti untaps. 5 cards in hand, lays a land. And apart from a Pestamite, he's pretty reactive. He's got engineered explosives, dismember, lightning bolt, and Pestamite in hand. Crack, end of turn from Josh.
12, 13.
4 cards for Estratti.
Gosh, the 13 almost entirely from his own mana. Or actually entirely from his own mana.
Another land, another pass. Estratti draws land.
Yeah, he's going to hold that other Pestamite until he finds something that lets him dig a little bit into his deck.
10 permanents in play, they're all lands. Looks like Josh has drawn a Noble Hierarch. A reason not to send that out. Potentially start nibbling away over a few turns. Estratti currently at 12. Josh has plenty of reach in the deck. Estratti just passes. Josh draws land.
I'm almost a little surprised that Estratti didn't bring in Blood Moon also. Seems like it's actually a card that might give, I mean, looking at Josh's
Now-
mana base.
Okay, yeah, now I understand what you're saying there. I was listening in on the Channel Fireball guys, and they were saying they didn't think he would. Didn't explain why, so I can't give you that, but they said, I don't think he will, and they were talking about that obviously the 2 Italians would have talked, even if they weren't precisely, you know, roommates and,
Sure.
and test partners, and the suggestion was that in that conversation it would have been decided not to, that it wasn't sufficiently beneficial. Though, I mean, as you said, when you look at a screen like that, you
Sure.
just go, why don't you just, like, make all those mountains? But the CF team felt that probably not. Be interesting to find out why. If Josh wins, perhaps we'll ask him in the closing show. Then again, if Estratti wins, we'll ask him how he won the Pro Tour by not playing Blood Moon. So the Hierarch is beating in its own unique fashion.
Josh attacks for 2 with his Dryad Arbor.
Crack.
8 plus 10.
Stratty
And we're
down
gonna
to
try
8.
Go for the win here.
It's got quite a lot of hate to get past, as it happens. Still double flash freeze, Bant Charm, the hand for Josh. But at 8, Estratti is starting to come within range of hit you with a Dryad Arbor for 2, a couple of lightning bolts or a helix. He's got a Pestamite, a lightning bolt, Kiki Jiki. Josh waiting to find out what that mountain's for, although the answer presumably is lightning bolt for the Noble Hierarch. It is. And one presumes Josh doesn't really care about this, does he? Is this a fight you want to have?
I don't think so. I think you're pretty
You just
content
go-
to still attack for 1. You have another Noble Hierarch for next turn.
Yeah, I'll just put you to 7 then next turn if I need to. Or
Add a white.
add a
White.
white. Okay.
Bluffing Path to Exile. Or showing Band Charm.
Noble Hierarch, double flash freeze, Bant Charm.
Right.
So we go back to Estratti, who will preordain. Land goes to the bottom, keeps on top. Oh, looks like it might be a deprive. Yep. Has Kiki Jiki, Engineered Explosive, Pestamite, Deprive, Dismember. And this game's become really grindy all of
Sure.
a sudden. It's like, whoa. I think this is the first time we've really been able to draw breath in the entire top 8, really. Josh will activate his Dryad Arbor for Noble Hierarch. And we'll go back to sitting and waiting with his double flash freeze.
He
And
feels
his Band Charm.
like he's very, very close to being able to win this game. Tap down. Oh, he's got. The problem is he's got
7, 10.
2 blue sources. The Noble Hierarch summoning 6, so if he can get the Pestamite into play. Tap down a blue, untap Kiki Jiki, and then have the spell. He doesn't know how many answers are in
Josh's
Josh's
hand.
hand. I mean, Josh could be sitting on a handful of lightning bolts, helixes, whatever. So, well, does he know that if he's
That looks like Estratti's drawn Splinter Twin. Has 6 mana.
3 cards. 3.
Yeah.
see now, there's going to be 3 blue sources in play when he passes the turn.
Which he does. Roundabout. Oh, now. There we go.
Yeah.
Checking, checking, checking. No, it really is your turn. So as you say, the Hierarch's now active.
And
So,
he's just going to attack with the Dryad Arbor. He's not going to tap the Noble Hierarch.
no, no. So it's taking a little time, but Josh Utter-Leyton is edging his way very, very carefully towards possibly equalizing.
This is the staring contest we joked about in the semifinals. Oh, he attacks with Noble Hierarch. Oh, he taps Noble Hierarch to play Noble Hierarch. Well,
Okay.
attacks for 3. Now we're in that same situation as last turn.
4, 10.
All right,
So
he's gonna try
now
it.
things are going to happen. I'd like a Pestamite, please. Is that okay? Pretty sure the answer is probably not.
He taps the. Interesting.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, Josh just passes the turn, so the Pestamite is down.
He's more worried about red spells than blue spells here.
Okay. He has Bant Charm in his hand and double flash freeze. Estratti has a lot of cards in hand. So he cracks yet another land, goes to 3. I'll just put myself in bolt range, that's fine.
He's got 2 counter spells.
1, 2, 3, 4. Splinter Twin.
I will flash freeze that.
Indeed, I will.
I will.
Let's have a
that.
counterspell war.
Flash
Dispel.
freeze that.
Flash
Do you have
freeze
the
that.
deprive?
Deprive.
Yes, he does.
You
That
do
is
have
game.
the deprive. And there you have it. Wasn't enough for Josh Utter-Leyton. The Italians go wild again in the arena. And Samuele Estratti, there he is. And boy, can't you just tell he's 2-0 up? No.
He looks sick to his stomach.
Yeah. Oh, you know why? If he wins any of the next 3 games, he has to buy his teammates dinner.
And he has to print up business cards.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Say Samuele Estratti, Pro Tour champion.
That's very true. 2-0 up, and looks like Josh Utter-Leyton is going to clear out for a moment or two to clear his head.
Which
Just,
is what he did in the semifinals as well.
The semi-finals where he was 2-0 down and then came back and then went to 1-2-2.
Yep.
2-3.
Just walked it off.
That's smart play because sometimes you can feel the walls closing in.
Sure.
In that setting, and sometimes you feel that even when you're just watching them. You know, when we're in the feature match area at the back end of day 2, it's round 14 of Modern, and you see some people grow a little taller when they get there, and some people just kind of hunch into their chairs a little. So. Now, I have to ask you,
Yes, sir.
if you're sitting there as Josh Utter-Leyton, you haven't got a lot of pressure, sure, but you have this deck that turns into a control deck, and you have this hand that is absolutely stone cold. Counter your spell, put that creature on the bottom. You've got all these cards in hand that are apparently the correct answer, and yet you're 2-0 down. Do you continue on the path that you know this is right and this is the way to do it, or do you think on your feet and start trying to change things up?
I mean, I think that Josh is an experienced enough player that he knows that the plan he had. I mean, he's going to obviously make adjustments if he's seen something that he wasn't expecting out of Estratti. But really, he's just got to believe that if he, plays his game, and he plays it, as many iterations of his game as he's given, that he's going to get the result he wants. Right? He's got to believe that, just because you mulligan a hand that you shouldn't keep, and then you get another hand that's worse, it doesn't mean you don't mulligan, right?
Indeed.
So you have to keep iterating the correct behaviors. I think he's going to stick to his guns. And he certainly has evidence from the semifinals that works.
Iterating the correct behaviors. That's really catchy. You should be a lifestyle coach. I like that. I like that. Don't forget, boys and girls, when you go back to school tomorrow for the new school year, Elizabeth, good luck in your new school tomorrow, starting a new year, my daughter. You make sure that you continue to iterate the correct behaviors. I swear I'm going to use that. She's going to love you by the end of this week. Oh, boy. So Josh Utter-Leyton, 2-0 down against Samuele Estratti. And I guess there is a danger for Estratti, if there is one, that he can overcook. Because, as you say, he is someone who is living every turn, every moment, and he needs to calm down as well. I clearly remember Mario Pascoli taking off his glasses during the top 8 at one point. John Finkel had just gone away. He'd gone away to the bathroom. And Pascoli was left
In a reverse
cooking.
tactic
Yeah,
here.
yeah, exactly. He was left kind of cooking under the lights. And he took himself away. He took his glasses off and he put his head in his hands. And it wasn't despair. It was taking him to a different place.
Sure.
And, ultimately, yes, Finkel is the winner of that Pro Tour. So I'm not saying take your glasses off, win a PT. That's not an iteration that I would recommend necessarily. But I do think that possibly Estratti could just make sure that he just keeps on top of things and not let it get to him, because we dream of these things. I mean, who doesn't dream of being 2-0 up in a Pro Tour final? I certainly do.
Yeah, it's terrifying and exhilarating. It sounds like one of the reasons that he's not able to bring in the Blood Moon, by the way, we talked about this, a couple of people on Twitter were responding to this, is just a matter of what is he taking out at some point.
Sure.
At some point, he just runs out of cards to take out of the deck.
Yes, because he's putting a lot in it. There is a bit of a suitcase there,
Right,
isn't
and
there?
we saw, a card like Dispel that he needs to have is, not something he can take out.
Okay, well, let's take one more look at the resumes of the two players. And I guess Estratti, the less experienced of the two, just in terms of number of top 8s, but he has those 2 Italian national top 8s.
He also has a top 32 at Worlds, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, you know, the guy is a genuine player. It's not that he's here by chance by any means. As we say, these two, and this is nice, these are the 2 players in the top 8 with the best modern records in the top 8. They both made it here with just a single loss. That one on the end is just the intentional draw. 55 lifetime pro points will very quickly become 80 if he wins this one. He's already at 75 now with 20 points for the runner-up. And then if we take a look at his opponent, Josh Utter-Leyton, well, again, 25. He'll be up over the 100 points, and that takes us into Hall of Fame territory. He'll be eligible once he's played for 10 years. BDM, this seems like a reasonable moment as Josh comes back to the table to talk about this year's class in the Hall of Fame. 3
Happily.
Yeah, we've got 3 terrific players. We've got Shuhei Nakamura at the head of the class. Number 2, Steve O'Mahony-Schwartz, your good friend, I know, and Anton Jönsson of Sweden.
You know, Steve O'Mahony-Schwartz is someone who's been on the ballot since the beginning. Retired from the game before a lot of people had an opportunity. You know, a lot of people who are voting now had an opportunity to see him play. But, you know, despite, you know, I don't know if you know this, you go to the Pro Tour now, and they give away pro points in the bathroom when you wash your hands. There's an attendant there who has, like, oh, here's 2 pro points for you with your napkin. Yeah, I mean, and back in the old days, you did not get pro points as easily. They were much, much harder to come by. And Steve O'Mahony-Schwartz is still, you know, in elite, you know, more than 200 point territory. I think top 25 players in the history of the game in terms of pro points.
Yep.
You know, has, you know, 3 top 8s, which are like, oh, by the way, first, second, third place. Was critical to the New York Magic community. Critical. So I couldn't be happier to see him get in, and that, you know, there was able to be this consensus that built up over the years on the ballot.
I think it's nice also that the Hall recognises a lot of different aspects of a player's career, because Anton Jönsson isn't known as a commentator, especially he's not known and revered as a writer. I mean, I don't think he doesn't.
Actually, Anton has, I think, a big part of Anton. I mean, look, Anton goes in the Hall of Fame. He's got 5 Pro Tour top 8s. He's the best limited, you know, one of the 3 best limited players of his era.
Sure.
Right? And they're all neck and neck, right? It's not like you can go, oh, one of them, you know, yeah, Nikolai won twice, but like all 3 of them were just right there the whole time.
Sure.
But he's actually a very important writer when it comes to writing about limited. And I think
Sure.
that his contributions, you know, certainly factored in terms of people going, oh yeah, you know what, he also did that.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, because my read on him is that people were overwhelmingly, you know what, he was just so good at Magic. He's clearly in.
Right.
And that to me is what the lesson I take from him. Not a popularity contest, not a I'm a song and dance guy, just an absolute, I'm really good at Magic.
Right.
And I let my play speak more or less entirely for itself. I take your point about the writing. Of course, he's a great writer, and
Yeah.
Limited is very tough to write about successfully.
Right.
So fair play to him. And then, of course, Shuhei Nakamura at the head of the class.
Shuhei Nakamura, Player of the Year. He kind of fumbles around the Pro Tour for the first few years of his career. Obviously gets on in, you know, the beginning of the 2000s.
That's right.
You know, gets to a Pro Tour, finishes in the 200s, gets to a Pro Tour, finishes, you know, mid 100s, gets to the Pro Tour, finally gets to Worlds 2004. Gets to Worlds 2004 alongside Kenji Samura and Tsuyoshi Fujita as part of the Japanese national team.
Okay.
Possibly the best national team ever assembled.
Even better than Daniel Royd-led British team for 2011?
Well,
you
all right,
think?
second best team.
Arguably. You said
Yes.
arguably, so I'll give you that.
And he finishes top 50 in that event.
Yeah.
And from there, qualifies for Pro Tour Columbus.
And that's where things
where
start
he
happening.
finishes second place and never looks back. He has 420 odd points in his career. 400 of them come in a 5-year or 6-year span.
That's right. Yeah.
Where he just gets to Columbus and never looks back. And if he's not the winner of the Player of the Year race, he's 5th he's in the top 5 of the Player of the Year race.
Yes, without fail. It's who are the
He has
other
one.
four
He has
that
one.
year?
He has 1 year that he wasn't in the top 5 of the Player of the Year race since 2004.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yes, he is an extraordinary player, and he's...
And really, shame on you if you didn't vote for him. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Well, no, that is completely fair, because it's hard to say that he... It's
Shame
hard
on
to
you.
make the case that he can't. You know what I mean? How does he become 6th on your list?
Right,
That's the thing.
right.
You know, name the 5 that you have to put in front of him. That's the thing. So I'd say no. No. So a terrific class, and we'll see them inducted
Gamer's got a
the
game,
hall.
though, you know?
Apparently. So let us get back to the action where Josh Utter-Leyton, now above 100 pro points, will be eligible to vote next year, where some very good people will be turning up.
Next year's class
Is there a Brazilian
There is a
available
Brazilian.
next year?
There's a couple of Japanese players available next year of note. You know, if should somehow Kenji Samura get into the Hall of Fame, that entire national team from 2004 could be enshrined in the Hall of Fame.
would be
Kenji, Tsuyoshi, and Shuhei.
Yep.
Masashi Iso, an early rookie of the year, who just had a fabulous career. I'm a little worried that he might get overlooked by some people. Doesn't have the community and is sort of overshadowed by Kenji a little bit, despite having a slightly better resume.
Yep.
And
Palavito
Palavito Damarosa, you know, still Patrick Chapin, sort of hanging around after a near miss this past year. Huey Jensen hanging around after, you know, being close to the total this past year. It's gonna be an exciting ballot.
So let's take you in back to the final, where Josh Utter-Leyton is under the gun. He needs answers. He's looking at a green-white deck right now.
Okay.
Path to Exile looks like Estratti is going to send his away. We've got a Kasali Pride Mage, Green Sun Zenith, Path to Exile. See going through Josh's hand. He's got the turn 1 Wildner Cattle, so he's going to curve out pretty nicely. There you see Josh reorganizing his hand over and over and over. It's the same 7 cards every time. Yeah, so we're very much looking forward to seeing the class of 2011 inducted into the Hall at the end of the year. You know, this was a terrific weekend for the Hall of Famers in general. There were a lot of Hall of Famers in attendance. And, you know, obviously, by definition, in the history of the game, they're better than most people they've played against. So that's a start, and that's a given. But nonetheless, I think, I haven't done the full math, but there was something like 12 or 13 Hall of Famers playing. 9 of them made day 2. Now that's, you know, round about a 70-75% success rate in a field that is basically round about 30% that come back on day 2. So, you know, they were 2.5 times better on average than you're just across the board. I think there was some really, really good performances, not just John Finkel and Brian Clever right up at the top at 14 and 15, you know, but just they all navigated their way to 5-3, whether they played 5 M12 drafts or 50 M12 drafts, and you know, they're just really, really good.
Steve O'Mahony Schwartz got to play on day 2 for Pro Tour for the first time in a long time.
And that's it. See, a great, great story, that. I imagine his new wife didn't mind him leaving home so much, having made day 2. Or maybe she was just really irritated that he made day 2. Who knows? You said you'd be home by Saturday lunch. So 6 for Estratti. Looks like that's a 5-land hand plus Dismember. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Not sure you're winning with that. Kentsu? Really? I mean, I'd love you to keep it because, you know, quite like to start the game, but... you can shuffle it any way you like. It's still Dismember plus 5. Smembrara, apparently.
As he made his decision,
Yeah, good boy. Well done. Always nice to see that. Yeah, you hate to see the... You know, I mean, it's like, how am I winning with this? There are 5-card hands that win this game. and
Sure.
it's hard to imagine that that's a six card hand that does. So we head back into Shufflesville. Another very solid performance from Lucas Yaklowski in the top 32. Two more Channel Fireball guys in there. Louis Scott Vargas and Conley Woods were back-to-back at 22 and 23.
It's pretty funny for Conley Woods this weekend. He seemed to really be buckled down for this event. And he's really like, guys, you know what? I'm not going to play any crazy decks. I really want to do well. Let's work. Let's really work on this format. And felt like the team was on board for a Pyromancer Swath deck. Right? It's like, this is what we're going to play, and he's practicing, and he's tuning, and he's making adjustments, and then at some point along the line, everybody switches to Countercat, and he's like, guys, come on now, it's going to look like I'm the rogue again, but like, I'm playing the team deck. I really like it.
Yeah, I'm the one with the deck. You've all switched. The thing is, again, you look at Zoo, and it doesn't feel like a last-minute switch to Zoo, really.
Right.
It's not a deck.
Well, it wasn't for Kipling, right? He was playing it the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he said, I do like my Wild Macatlas.
They've treated him well.
He's done all right the last few years, hasn't he, really?
Yes.
Well, we say the last few years, he's done all right the last ever.
Right.
Once you go back, it's like
Since he's come back.
Grand Prix Toronto 1997 was his first major victory. So we are go with 5. There finally is the turn 1 Wild Macatl from Josh, who needs all the help he can get, it turns out, with the mulligan to 5. Dismember is still there in Estratti's hand. Looks like a lightning bolt as well. Josh has his Path to Exile, Bant Charm now. And that's double path.
15.
Josh down to 15.
I think if you're going to do 1 million damage to me, I'm just going to play my lands. Solid Pride Mage, attack for 4.
That's exactly what occurs. There's the Pride Mage.
Question is, what's going to draw the lightning bolt? In your attack step before you declare attackers.
Yeah, let's not have that exalted trigger floating about the place. Surely you take out the Pride Mage.
Certainly mucks about with your plans, right?
Yeah.
Yep. It's like, oh, I'll take 3.
That was quite exciting. For 4 seconds I was as good as a Pro Tour finalist. Misty Rainforest goes away. Island. So we'll tap both of those. And there is Spellskite. Cattle now up against Spellskite.
Josh going to clear the path. He's got to deal with the Spellskite at some point anyway.
Land and crack.
15, 12.
Goes down to 12. Trust we're not heading into one of those scenarios where 12 becomes 9 and then bolt you, untap, bolt you.
No. Band Charm, then a Spellskite.
Sure.
Right, save the cheaper, more flexible path to exiles for later, and you don't want to give him a land here.
Sure.
He's just been
'Cause he's gonna-
mulliganing to
Yeah.
twice.
So he's going to ponder for a land essentially, which he does see. There's a misty rainforest there. Although he's got lands in hand, so maybe they go away. Let's see what he does. Green Sun Zenith, double path to exile for Josh. So you look from overhead at our two plays. Steam vents. Lightning bolt open.
Oh, sorry.
Pass the turn. Josh sends his wild the cattle.
Suddenly Estratti's at 9.
Josh has drawn flash freeze. So as before, seems to have an awful lot of answers in his hand. Green Sun Zenith for 2, so that'll be Gaddock Teague.
I don't know if he has another one. I think it's
Oh,
Tom
okay.
McGriff.
Right, yep.
Yeah, he does not have another one. All right.
We may not be far from...
Could have been a second Casali Pride Mage, but
May not be far from Josh getting himself on the board in this final and starting the climb back.
he saw LSV come back from 2-0-2 holes in Berlin. Thought it'd be nice to run it back that way.
Elves was a deck that didn't really do the business this weekend. Obviously, it was missing.
We saw it early on. There were a couple players who did well with it in the first leg of the event.
Yeah.
But it did not seem to hold up.
I mean, it misses Glimpse of Nature, of course. That's on the ban list right now. And it didn't quite seem to have the legs it needed. So we're going to see
We've seen
Fire
a lot
Spout.
of, and we've seen a lot of Fire Spout.
Yeah. So that gets rid of the Wildner Cattle. There's Dismember for the Tarmogoyf.
Oh, by the way, I'm at 4.
Yeah. And he's tapped out. Looks like Josh is drawn into a Tarmogoyf.
Here's a lethal Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Deal with this.
Yeah, and probably can't. Guess he could draw a Dismember and go to 2.
Well,
He's drawn a Fire Spout. Is that a Pestamite?
It is a Pestamite.
Okay, so he gets to cast that and tap it for 1 turn.
Tap.
I'd like to attack. How about you don't? Oh, it's Exarch, sure. So, yep. Tarmogoyf gets tapped down. Josh has got Tectonic Edge to make things a little more awkward. He has Flash Freeze. Should Estratti attempt Splinter Twin?
It's about as awkward as it can get for Estratti here.
Yeah. Yes. He threw away 6. He kept 5.
Yep.
It's not going to be sufficient.
He's got no cards in hand. What am I? Oh, he's got 1 card in hand. Sorry.
Yeah, the Fire Spout, and then he's drawn up to 2. Makes the move that everyone makes. It's where they move their card across to be opposite the card they're going to block.
Yep.
Another Deceiver Exarch. So that taps down the Tarmogoyf once more.
And he did this against Nakajima.
Indeed.
He can
Passes.
now block once.
Tap.
Yeah, off you go. Block.
Yep.
So, if he can fight through a Flash Freeze and 2 Path to Exiles and draw the card he needs.
And he can't.
Yeah.
He can't. He can't. Josh is looking and thinking, is there any possible way I can lose this? It looks like he's drawn Unified well as well. Now, so 2 Path to Exile.
Yep.
One of which is about to be sent. And there you go. That is 2-1, and the first game of the final goes to Josh Utter-Leyton. So he's on the board. Team America are on the board. And Estratti will look to start with more than 5 cards this time.
You see Josh literally after every game, and both players are actually doing it. They just take their 15 sideboard cards and mash them into their deck.
Yeah. It's a little edge, but it's a thing. Why would you not do it?
Right.
Well, because you're lazy would be an answer.
Sure.
And if you want to, if you want to be lazy, that's fine. But that doesn't feel like a like a great reason not to do it. So here we are at 2-1 now to Estratti. This has been a format where I haven't heard a lot of people talk about going first or second as being a tumultuous deal. It doesn't feel...
I mean, every time we saw someone all week, they were like, play, until the semifinals.
Yeah, and that was very interesting because listening to the Channel Fireball team afterwards, they were talking, Louis Scott Varnso and Turton Wild, David Ochoa were around, and they were talking about that and saying it just feels like a very different game for Sam if he's on the play than because he elected to draw, having lost one of those, he elected to draw. And Owen was saying, well, you know, if Sam goes on the play and he begins with an Inkmoth Nexus, right there, Josh is kind of in trouble because he can't really go turn one Wild Macadal. He's like... He has
to respect the turn 2 kill.
Yeah, he has to sit there and lay up a lightning bolt or represent a lightning bolt even. It's never mind having to have one, he has to pretend he's got one. And they kind of felt that they didn't quite see how that made sense for Sam to be on the draw there. I haven't had a chance to talk to Sam
I haven't either.
For the reasoning behind that, but that they felt that they were given an edge in that one. And, yeah, well, they're not often wrong.
Anyway, we haven't seen that here. We've seen everyone choosing to be on the play.
Yeah, pretty much. Just looking a little further down the standings, picking out some names for you we haven't talked about much yet. Eric Froelich was in the top 32.
Another top 32 for Eric. That's great.
Yeah. Kit Holland, Mr. MTG Mom.
By the way, someone who's been around the game for a long time and has been, he and his wife have been super active in the Magic community. Yeah. First in Florida, now, now in the Chicago area. It's his first Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very excited when they won the PTQ.
And Kit was really in the running for top 8 right up until the last couple of rounds.
Yep.
So great job, Kit.
Absolutely. Top 32, fantastic performance. Matt Sperling was 33rd, Ari Lax 35. Oh, boy. Now, Ari Lax, fair play, class act. I've got to give him this. Okay, there are ways to lose games of Magic that don't involve you being an idiot. Okay, there are all sorts of ways where you do things wrong, and then you can beat yourself up about it, or sometimes justifiably. But when there are times when you just lose because that's the way things are, there are ways to handle yourself. Okay, so Ari is playing in the
please tell me this because I need to learn this.
Okay, so Ari is playing in the feature match area against Brian Kibler. It's one game all, there's a ton of creatures on either side, but Ari sees the win. There is almost nothing that Kibler can do. Ari sends in the guys, and he's like, here I go, and it's like the penultimate round, maybe 2 rounds out. And he's like, I'm going to win. And Kibler taps a green for Fog. And Ari just looks, and he looks, and you can see the world collapsing in on him. And he rocks back in his chair like he's been physically punched. And then he goes, okay, great games. And he extends the hand, and he meant great games. And afterwards, sure, desperately upset, but to not, that's where you go on tilt.
Right.
When you die, I mean, if ever there was a card...
I can't believe you played that card against me. How terrible. What's your rating?
Although, 2,246. I'm in the Hall of Fame. What's yours, Sonny? You see quite a few of those on Facebook, don't you? Those little earnest conversations. Yeah. You noob. Yes, my name actually is Brian Kibler. Actually, Fog is an interesting card because it was something that Brian talked about, not with Ari, which is probably wise, but subsequently Brian was talking about Fog and saying, it's one of those cards that everyone assumes, no one plays with Fog. I mean, that's why people...
You're doing a draft on Magic Online, you're like, well, I could take this Fog or I could take this Forest. Forest.
Yeah.
I want my opponent to play with Fog.
To play Fog. And he was saying that possibly in M12, Fog is a lot better than it's been for quite a long time because there are actually a bunch of situations where it's not the worst instant to cast.
Sure.
And you know, don't get me wrong, this is not a Brian Kibler commercial saying, go and buy your 4 fogs now because they're really great. Because he's not saying that. But he's just saying it's one of those cards that shifted in value. It still says the same thing, it still does the same thing, but it's a little better than it used to be, and I certainly won him a match of Magic down the stretch, and here he is in the top 16.
You know, and that's the difference between a top 16 finish and a top 40 finish.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
That's where their fortunes kind of pivot on.
absolutely. So there's Kit Holland at the top of the 31 pointers in 30th place, and then Ari, as we say, in 35. Simon Gertson made the top 64 again in 37th. As we go down, an Australian, John Paul Kelly. Commiserations, someone we haven't mentioned today that we've talked about through the weekend, Jeremy Neiman of Australia.
Right.
And you wrote that article about fantasy drafting and, you know, players who are ultra consistent, because that's what you want in your fantasy drafts. I'm doing my NFL draft tomorrow night, and
In the split format era, and Jeremy's not played in all the Pro Tours in that era, but when he's played, his median finishes have been, you know, on this side of the standings. You know, I mean, he's done very well.
Yeah, he really has. He's a terrific player. Grand Prix winner from Australia, part of the team that lost in the World Championship final last year at Chiba to the Slovak national team. So terrific weekend again for him. He played against Seb Thaler in the last round and just wasn't quite able to get there with Goblins. He was one of those. There were so many red combo decks.
Right, he was
out
playing
there.
Goblin Storm, so you'd see
That's
him
right.
go, and you know some of the Pyromancer Swath decks had empty the Warrens, but he'd go empty the Warrens, and then I have 2 mana left, and Goblin Bushwhacker and kill you, and you can go off in a tighter Storm package, right? You can go like, oh, I'm going to make 4 or 5 guys and attack.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're ready to attack over here.
Okay, so let us get down to the action again, and we will take you to game. There are the players getting ready to go. Misty Rainforest will start game 4 for Samuele Estratti. He is 2-1 to the good.
And by the way, it looks like the Blood Moon's in for this game.
Oh, okay.
I just saw one flash by as he shuffled his deck. We've seen.
Preordained.
We've seen Josh have a handful of answers, which are all relying on, my Hallowed Fountain and my, I'm going to have 2 blue, and
My
I'm going to have
Bancham
and a
and-
white, and I'm going to play through, my Bancham, and maybe he's just like, you know what? This card's going to be good for me, and it's going to make up for other cards that I'm taking out.
And potentially, although, I mean, Josh is really good at this, so, I don't want to suggest that it's going to be a knock on him, but potentially, because it's as deep as Game 4, it's a card that can come from nowhere as a surprise. It's like, I'm fine, I'm hiding behind my path. I'm like, holy wow, where did that come from?
Right.
So there's that potential upside as well. Lightning Bolt and a couple of lands off Ponder.
Keep
It
them
looks
there.
like- Yep. So there you see a Scalding Tarn. Tarmogoyf's there. Flash Freeze. Green Sun Zenith for Josh. Flash Freeze. Path to Exile at the back. For about 0.8 of a second. Somebody hold his hand still. Double Fire Spout. And the Blood Moon that you talked about there, BDM, for Estratti. Oh, there we are, it stopped. Look. Oh.
Yeah. Don't jinx it.
That was the vertical hold on the monitor. The cattle down. Josh pondering his next move.
Let's play that Sacred Foundry and get him for 3. Play a Tarmogoyf.
System. 60. 1.
Yep. Green Sun Zenith for 1. Noble Hierarch, which by the way gives him, the white and blue mana that he might lose to a Blood Moon.
15.
So Green Sun Zenith for Noble Hierarch, attack for 4.
Attack for 4, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't kidding about the clock thing, were you?
No.
So Estratti has access to quite a lot of blow things up and get in the way a lot.
So he's able to actually Blood Moon here, untap next turn, and be able to explosives away both of those creatures.
That would not be shabby.
I shuffle your deck. I shuffled your deck.
I believe so.
Thing is, it's also interesting when you do sideboard a card in like that and then you find it and it was part of a plan that you had, you're almost morally obliged to do something with it.
He's going to just get rid of the creatures.
Yep. Let's start again. Thing is, he can afford to be fairly aggressive with that first fire spout because he has another sitting right on by. Here's a Tarmogoyf. There's the Blood Moon.
There are 3 mountains.
Now let's look at Josh's hand in the light of everything being mountains. That is that.
He can cast his lightning bolt.
Well, yes, in many, many ways. Oh wow!
I think he still has a. 4 mountains. Creature, land, sorcery.
Yeah, I don't believe there are any instances. There's a preordain and a ponder up there and a fire spout, so they're all sorcery speed. And creature and land in Josh Utter-Leyton's graveyard.
It's a
He
mountain.
will send.
I believe it's still a creature.
It's still a creature. Okay.
It is still a creature
For
indeed.
damage.
And there we are. That was what we talked about, wasn't it? Dried Arbor, mountain. It's a 1/1 mountain. So Estratti is drawn into Splinter Twin here. Taps 2 for Engineered Explosives, Sunburst 2. So that will blow up Tarmogoyf at some point. It's down to 11. We know that Josh has 1 lightning bolt in hand. So that's functionally 8. Presumably, Estratti here is going to crack his engineered explosives. He can't really afford to take a hit from the Tarmogoyf.
Excellent.
Ooh.
7, 16.
Pays 2, pops the engineered explosives, plays a spellscape.
So Estratti down to 7.
6.
6. There's a lightning bolt in hand for us, Leyton.
They have 2 lightning bolts.
Don't believe he does right now. Does Estratti have answers to lightning bolt? Looks like he has it. Might be a remand in hand, but that isn't going to be a hard counter right now. He's drawing into all his Splinter Twins. Josh Utter-Leyton getting very close here. Has he just drawn the second lightning bolt? I think he has.
Kills the land.
Remand.
So you're targeting
The target is
this
this one, and I want to remand this one.
And I want to remand as well.
net results.
So he draws off the remand to get something more useful. Then lightning bolt for real.
Josh can get him to 1 with, assuming he lets 1 lightning bolt hit him, he can make the other one hit the spellscape.
Okay. Pass. Go.
There's this.
Pestamite. Yes. We think he has Splinter Twin in hand.
Well,
You.
bolt you in response.
Bolt you. Oh boy. Bolt you in response.
Both here?
Oh,
How many cards are you holding?
so close.
They have to be bolts, though. They can't be lightning. He looks.
How many cards are you holding?
3.
Yep, because the helix doesn't work. Goes to 3. Bolt you. Send it to the Spellskite. Shake the hand, and Samuele Estratti, by 3 games to 1, is the Italian champion of Pro Tour Philadelphia 2011. Yes, come
Sends
on,
a cascade of
boys.
Italian players rushing across the hall to congratulate him.
Oh, goodness gracious me.
Can we
It's
stand up?
Splinter Twin that does the
we stand up?
business at the end. Wow. Samuele Estratti, the latest Pro Tour champion. He just wants to know if he can stand up and leave the table.
If there's ever been a deck, you know, you talk about using life as a resource, and he went down to 1 that game essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went down to 1.
all intents. I mean, he had
Yeah.
he had the island for the Spellskite at the end, but wow. So there it is, another Pro Tour champion, the first ever modern format champion, and it goes to Splinter Twin, and it goes to Italy and to Samuele Estratti.
Now, is that the first Pro Tour champion from Italy?
Suspect it is.
I believe it is.
Because I thought Pascoli was going to be the first one in 2008, and I've not seen one since. That's just brilliant. We said Italy had a great weekend. Now they've got the best weekend.
Blood Moon is a card that right out of the gates of the modern format, as soon as it was legal on Magic Online, Blood Moon Affinity, we saw a takedown, an early daily event, and you get to see why that card is so powerful. It just shut out, not only shut off his mana base, but it also shut out the cards that can be in his hand that matter. Right,
Sure.
like Lightning Helix doesn't matter.
Yep.
Path to Exile doesn't matter because there's
Tantrum,
nothing. Yeah,
not going
Tantrum,
anywhere.
right.
If it's so good, and I accept their genius, thank you so much. Where was it in games 2 and 3?
Again, maybe he felt that he didn't need it. He was up 2 games.
Sure.
You know, someone suggested on Twitter, I believe it was Julian, said, you know, well, maybe after you're up 2 games, you bring it in because maybe you just get to steal a game with it,
Sure.
which is what we saw happen.
And it was what we were saying, that arguably, because you can't... I mean, I don't think Josh was, like, not playing around it or trying to play around it or anything like that, but I mean,
Right.
as it happened, we just sat there with some very, very pretty mountains.
But if he's expecting it, he might play differently, right? He might sit there
Sure.
on turn 2 with 2 lands instead of going, oh, I'm going to play a guy. Instead of, you know, where, all right, he can represent flash trees, right? He's not thinking about his flash trees for a Blood Moon at that point because he doesn't think there's a Blood Moon there. So it was very, very interesting
Yeah.
sideboarding by both players. We
So-
saw them going back to their sideboards
Yes.
every game.
And arguably, therefore...
and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking.
And arguably, and I do like a good tweak, it turns out that game 4 was where that sideboarding really mattered, because just that, bring it in, Blood Moon.
Yeah,
I
you
w-
actually
I
can't
win the
do
whole thing. I
do
mean-
anything other than bolt twice. And they have a Spellskite, which means
Yep, one
that
of them's
leaves
going
me-
right there.
one of them is going to be there.
Yep. Incredible. What a day it's been. We had Max Scherblum of Finland in the top 8. He began his quarterfinal campaign against Chikara Nakajima, so that was at Pyromancer Ascension against Affinity, and we saw some breathtaking action from Nakajima in the quarterfinals
Right.
with the well-known. That's my opening hand.
Yeah.
You're not thought seizing it. You're just seeing it on the table. What are you doing?
Cards on the table.
Yeah, and shortly after that, Nakajima was through. But Scherblum, terrific performance by him, 12-0 to start the weekend, and just came up short in the top 8. Then we had Jesse Hampton, the next US player, up against Sam Black, and the feeling there was that Sam was a
Sure.
big favourite.
It was a combo showdown of Breach Hulk versus Shoal Sickness, I guess.
Yeah, so mono blue poison.
Yeah.
For Sam, and that is kind of how it played out. Talking to Sam at lunch, this is interesting. Sam, it's one of the reasons Sam's such a great gamer. He is every bit as interested in what has just gone as in what is just coming. So I said, so let's talk a little bit about how the sideboards will work. I think that's how I phrased it. And he proceeded to tell me about why he had won his quarterfinal against Jesse and why the sideboard was and eventually I stopped and I said, okay, that's very interesting. I look forward to reading all about it in your next article. I actually kind of think about your semi-final where, you could then go on to the final possibly.
Oh, yeah.
And he went, oh, you mean my next match? And he was like, okay. So, he felt he was favoured, and that's very much how that one played out. Next one, Josh Utter-Leyton up against Alessandro Portaro of Italy, as we know. Josh with this counter-cat, the zoo deck, and Portaro, the first of the Splinter Twins for Italy. And 3-1.
Yep.
It was an odd match.
Yeah, well, it was an odd match. By the time we got over, we got back to that last game.
Yeah.
We barely had time to muster the excitement for seeing Josh get through to the semifinals. We're like, hey, and now we're gonna look at night of the. Oh, it's over.
Yeah, and there's the handshake. Yes, with the register plummeted an octave on that one. But, nonetheless, all very efficient, thank you. And that left the other Italian, Samuele Estratti, to face Andre Prost of the United States. Now, Andre was a bit disappointed afterwards. He was philosophical because he said, you know what, if he has it every time, he has it every time. But he felt that that's kind of what happened, that Estratti really did have a pretty strong succession of draws when it mattered. And I guess you can always feel like that when, particularly when you're up against a combat deck that just goes, I thought I dealt with that.
Well, especially when you've lost, because you didn't have it, and they did.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, do you have it? No. Do you have it? Yes. And he had it a lot, it turned out. So then we got into the semi-finals. And this to me was pretty much, the highlight of the day. We saw Josh Utter-Leyton take on Sam Black, which is a great matchup anyway. I don't want to build this up too much, but it was Star City against Channel Fireball in the semi-finals of a Pro Tour, which was kind of fun as well.
And it went down to the last blow.
Yeah, and it was just back and forth, and we knew, though Sam did not know, that Josh was in this situation where he didn't have all the answers that were littering the board that in theory were going to make the match very difficult for Sam. And we knew that there were multiple terms where if Sam could just find that final piece, where's the Dragonstorm, where's the Progenitus? Yeah, we're going to nail you. And it just went on and on and on, and in the end, just didn't quite work out for Sam, and of course he was smiling afterwards because he was like,
I looked at the top half of my deck.
Top quarter twice, as you said, with shuffling, and it just wasn't there. But that is absolutely the deck I want to fire up first on Magic Online when I'm starting to explore the modern format, because it's so fun. And combo decks, if you go back, I don't know how many of you were sort of around for going back to sort of 1997 when you're in the Mirage era of combo decks, and you're looking at these incredibly complicated engines that are around in your green-black combos that they're just unbelievably complex. And this is actually a very clean affair. Sam talks about it, just the 5 cards really.
Right. Here's what I need. Here's what gets it for me. Right. That's his deck.
Yeah.
Starts here, very narrow, and then everything here is in service of that.
Absolutely. So a very straight ahead deck, a deck you can learn, a deck you can practice with. I say that's where I would certainly head up. So terrific couple of semi-finals, and then the final itself. We
can't really stress enough how well Samuel played.
Oh, sure.
I mean, again, bolting that Dryad Arbor to not get perilously low, and the remand play in the middle, right? He's like, I need to get a card.
I know.
And you know what? He just had enough cards, and he got that Pestermite off the remand. I mean, he may have drawn it the next turn, but he really needed it that turn. Yeah, so it was just very well played.
Just like the secret of all good comedy, timing. It's all about the timing in Magic. One turn too soon.
Timing.
Will you stop that?
Sorry.
Well, you know what, boys and girls? Modern has given us an extraordinary weekend. It's been a weekend of innovation. It's been a weekend of some nervousness, outrageous turn ones, immaculate deck design, some hard luck stories, a champion from Italy, even some attacking for 2. Thanks for being with us at the birth of a brand new format. Time now for the award ceremony with your host, Pro Tour Tournament Manager, Mr. Scott Larrabee.
Hello and welcome to the 2011 Pro Tour Philadelphia Awards Ceremony. I'm the Pro Tour Tournament Manager, Scott Larrabee. Assisting me today will be Pro Tour Philadelphia Head Judge, Riccardo Testatori. First, a few awards that were presented earlier in the day. In fourth place, winning $13,000 from Japan, Chikara Nakajima. And in third place, winning $15,000 from the United States, Sam Black. Presenting the 2011 Pro Tour Philadelphia finalist, winning $20,000 from the United States, Joshua Utter-Leyton. And now it is my great pleasure to present the 2011 Pro Tour Philadelphia champion, winning $40,000 from Italy, Samuele Estratti. One more time for the 2011 Pro Tour Philadelphia champion, Samuele Estratti from Italy. I'd like to thank the many players, judges, and staff for making Pro Tour Philadelphia such a great success. Join us again November 17th to 20th for the 2011 World Championships in San Francisco. Until then, this is Pro Tour Manager Scott Larrabee. Thank you and good night.